The History of Tom Jones, a Foundling, by Henry Fielding. Book 1, containing as much of the birth of the foundling as is necessary or proper to acquaint the reader with the beginning of this history. Chapter 1, the introduction to the work, or bill of fare to the feast. An author ought to consider himself not as a gentleman who gives a private or eleemosynary treat, but rather as one who keeps a public ordinary, at which all persons are welcome for their money. In the former case, it is well known that the entertainer provides what fare he pleases, and though this should be very indifferent and utterly disagreeable to the taste of his company, they must not find any fault, nay, on the contrary, good breeding forces them outwardly to approve and commend whatever is set before them. Now, the contrary of this happens to the master of an ordinary. Men who pay for what they eat will insist on gratifying their palates. However nice and whimsical these may prove, and if everything is not disagreeable to their taste, will challenge a right to censor, to abuse, and to their dinner without control. To prevent, therefore, giving offence to their customers by any such disappointment, it has been unusual with the honest and well-meaning host to provide a bill of fare which all persons may peruse at their first entrance into the house, and, having thence acquainted themselves with the entertainment which they may expect, may either stay and regale with what is provided for them, or may depart to some other ordinary better accommodated to their taste. As we do not disdain to borrow wit or wisdom from any man who is capable of lending us either, we have condescended to take a hint from those honest victuallers, and shall prefix not only a general bill of fare to our whole entertainment, but shall likewise give the reader particular bills to every course which is to be served up in this and the ensuing volumes. The provision, then, which we have made here is no other than human nature. Nor do I fear that my sensible reader, though most luxurious in his taste, will start, cavil, or be offended, because I have named but one article, the tortoise, as the Alderman of Bristol, well learned in eating, knows by much experience, besides the delicious calipash and calipee, contains many different kinds of food. Nor can the learned reader be ignorant that in human nature, though here collected under one general name, is such prodigious variety that a cook will have sooner gone through all the several species of animal and vegetable food in the world than an author will be able to exhaust so extensive a subject. An objection may perhaps be apprehended for the more delicate, that this dish is too common and vulgar. For what else is the subject of all the romances, novels, plays, and poems with which the stalls abound? Many exquisite viands might be rejected by the epicure, if it was a sufficient cause for him contemning of them as common and vulgar, that something was to be found in the most paltry alleys under the same name. In reality, true nature is as difficult to be met with in authors as the Bayonne ham or the Bologna sausage is to be found in shops. But the whole, to continue the same metaphor, consists in the cookery of the author, for as Mr. Pope tells us, true wit is nature to advantage driest, what oft was thought but ne'er so well expressed. The same animal which hath the honour to have some part of his flesh eaten at the table of a duke, may perhaps be degraded in another part, and some part of his limbs gibbeted, as it were, in the vilest stall in town. Where then lies the difference between the food of the nobleman and the porter, if both are at dinner, and the same ox or calf, on the same ox or calf, but in the seasoning, the dressing, the garnish, and the setting forth? Hence the one provokes and incites the most languid appetite, and the other turns and pulls that which is the sharpest and keenest. In like manner, the excellence of the mental entertainment consists less in the subject than the author's skill in well dressing it up. How pleased, therefore, will the reader be to find that we have in the following work adhered closely to one of the highest principles of the best cook, which the present age, or perhaps that of Heliogabalus, hath produced. This great man, as is well known to all lovers of polite eating, begins at first by setting plain things before his hungry guests, rising afterwards by degrees as their stomachs may be supposed to decrease, to this very quintessence of sauce and spices. In like manner we shall represent human nature, at first to the keen appetite of our reader, in that more plain and simple manner in which it is found in the country, and shall hereafter hash and ragout it with all the high French and Italian seasoning or affection and vice which courts and cities afford. By these means we doubt not but our reader may be rendered desirous to read on for ever, as the great person just above mentioned is supposed to have made some persons eat. Having premised thus much, we will now detain those who like our bill of fare no longer from their diet, and shall proceed directly to serve up the first course of our history for their entertainment.